Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jenelle Riley. I'm so thrilled to welcome you to... Stop it, you guys. You're wasting time. I am so thrilled to welcome you to this conversation with one of my favorite movies of the year and one I know that actors love, Florence Foster Jenkins. At this time, please join me in welcoming the two men in Florence's life. First, we have an actor, writer, director. He is a 5-time SAG Award nominee for his work on The Big Bang Theory. Please welcome Simon Helberg. Also joining us as an actor who's shown his range in everything from 4 Weddings to a Funeral to Sense and Sensibility. It is so great to have him back on screen as St. Clair Bayfield. Please welcome Hugh Grant. Thank you guys so much for being here. Congratulations on, I don't think any movie has made me smile as much this year as this one has. This is a room full of SAG actors. So I always like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
They're going to ask if I paid my dues. And no is the answer.
If you don't, you won't get your Florence Foster Jenkins screener.
Oh, okay. I've not seen this movie. I hear good things. How did I get my SAG card? Do you have a SAG card? Do you have a green card or a SAG card?
I'm completely illegitimate. I should be thrown out. No, I do. I assume I have a SAG card.
Right, you have to.
Yeah,
right?
I must have. Yeah.
Okay, good. I did a TV. It was a show called Undeclared. It was Judd Apatow's one of his shows that nobody watched with all of those people that are now huge movie stars, and I had a small part and. I got paid like half of what it cost to join SAG, and I borrowed the other half from my parents, and I was very excited to show off that card that I couldn't pay for, but that was that.
And you probably got yours for your first American movie, is my guess.
Yeah, that would probably be right. Yeah. Yes.
Was it?
I was a member of Equity, founded by Clair Bayfield.
That is so crazy.
Yeah. I know, weird, isn't it? He was dying to be an actor and not terribly talented, and ended up in a pretty bad theatrical group touring the United States. This was before he met Florence, and they all got abandoned by their backers suddenly in the middle of nowhere, not being paid. And he was so outraged, he started the first Actors Union.
So I'm so curious about the script for Florence Foster Jenkins. If you had heard of her story before, if you knew who she was, and how the script found its way to you.
I knew she existed. At least I knew there was this terrible singer who was famously bad. Because cassettes used to be passed around of her back in the 70s. You remember cassettes, some of you? But then I didn't know the details, and then out of the blue, Stephen Frears, who I knew a little bit through politics, oddly enough, said, I've got a script, I think you might like it. And I said, I don't think so, Stephen, I think I'm busy doing other things, I don't want to act. And he sent me this script, and it was brilliant. It was, funny and sad and odd, difficult to place in terms of genre, and had this strangely nuanced part for me, and the small matter of Meryl Streep. So yes, for me.
So Meryl was already on board.
Meryl was on board. Yeah. The nice story is about Nick Martin, who wrote it, who was having a dip in his career at that time. He wrote a successful TV writer in Britain, but was having a dip and not getting any work. And he thought, well, I'll write that film script on spec that I've had in my head about that opera woman. And wrote it, sent it to his agent, and said, do what you can. Had very low hopes. His agent called him back within 48 hours and said, it's set up with Stephen Frears and Meryl Streep. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Simon, for you?
For me, Hugh and Meryl were attached, and I got an email. I made a small movie that I I talked to you about that called "We'll Never Have Paris" that I wrote and directed and was in, and it was a tiny, tiny movie with Kathleen Chopin as the casting director. And I got an email like a year after I shot that as I skimmed it, I saw the name Meryl Streep and Hugh Grant and Stephen Frears, and I thought it was, from a Nigerian prince or something. So I really did not understand what was going on. I did not recognize. Her email was one of those weird emails that didn't say her name. It was like KC994, and I thought this is I was either drunk at a party and I gave my number, and this is like a college student who's lying, or it's spam. But it was her saying, "Oh, you'd be great for this role. Are you interested?" And I didn't have. How could you ask such an insane question? So, and the script was amazing. And then I met Stephen in a hotel, and it was hilarious and odd. And he had no shoelaces, and I said, "Did they take them away at the asylum?" And he didn't laugh, and then I got the job. So. He's a lovely, eccentric man, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, no shoelaces, nothing. He had no clothes when I met him. But that's how I've got most of my parts, to be honest.
Did you ever find out where the shoelaces were, or is that just how he dresses?
They might have taken them away at the asylum. I don't know. It feels like he's just always landed on this planet, like moments before you see him. So he's so sweet and funny and intelligent, but he's just kind of he's out there. So we talked. I didn't even know if he registered me. He sort of looks off into a lot of this scratching and then that was it. He asked a lot about piano. That was all he cared about. So and then it just happened.
And like Hugh, do you have a good imitation of him?
Well, he said, "Can you play the piano? It sounds like he's eaten Gollum." Well, yes.
Actually, we have an audience question.
Right?
We have an audience question about that from Tony. Wants to know if you're musically inclined. Do you play any instruments, and can you read music?
Me?
Well, I think both of you, but...
If that movie didn't answer your question, I hope that was before the movie.
Yeah, in fairness, these questions.
Now, do you have any musical gifts at all? Because I saw your movie. I play the piano. I played the music in the movie, and thank you. I was not pandering. It seems like I was pandering, but we did all of the music live in the film, and so Meryl and I played it, she sang it. As you saw it, it was happening. And I do read music very, very slowly, so it took me months and months of locking myself in a room. I'd never played opera, and I hadn't played much classical music, so I played a lot of jazz, stuff where you can improvise and don't have to read music, pop music by ear and reading roughly. So I had to hunker down and learn how to play these insane pieces of music, and then to sort of try to ebb and flow with the Titanic that was Meryl as singing crazy time. So it was a great challenge.
We should talk about Meryl because obviously she's Meryl Streep, but I've seen actors get swallowed up by her on the screen before. She is such a force of nature, and you guys, you don't just hold your own with her. You're in there. You make wonderful scene partners. What is it like, sort of that first day on set when you're aware that you're working with the Meryl Streep, and does she do anything to sort of put you at ease?
She did forget her lines on the first day.
No.
Yes, which put me enormously at ease, I must say.
Maybe she did it on purpose.
I'll never know.
I'll
never know.
I wouldn't be.
But my basic experience was that after I signed on for the film, I had a year to wait. Meryl was busy doing something else, and that was a year of fear, pure, unadulterated terror, and sleepless nights. But I kept comforting myself with the fact that nothing in life is as bad when you get there as it is when you're dreading it. And I was wrong. It was utterly terrifying because she's very nice. I'm sure you've met her. But so A, good, and B, focused, dedicated, and, such high standards. and it's just utterly terrifying coming from the world of, romantic comedy. See if we can make it funny, and it's suddenly a woman who says, this is my fucking religion, about acting. That's terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same. I remember a moment before I left for England where I was driving up Western and I saw like a bag lady like muttering to herself, pushing a shopping cart, and I looked at her and I thought, God, she's so lucky. She just free. She doesn't have to go anywhere. She doesn't have to work with Meryl Streep. What a lucky life. I'm so terrified. And then I had a moment too of this is a dream come true. It's just funny how your dreams, if you get the moment to live them out, it takes a lot of, it's not always just jumping up and down. I mean, I jumped up and down when I found I got the part, and then I envied the life of a vagrant. So but she does. She's used to sort of picking people's jaws up off the floor, I think. So she kind of like, when I first met her, that's what I felt like. She was like, basically like, shh, calm down. It's like putting out a fire and humanizing herself a little, and then it's just, but she's lovely. I don't know. There's
she was very nice. I agree. Lovely.
Yeah.
I'm curious, once you get over your intimidation of Meryl, what was the hardest part about making the movie? And I'm curious, was it ever hard to not laugh?
We laughed.
Yeah. It was, but it's always the scenes where you're absolutely supposed not to laugh that make you laugh. There's a scene in the film where they're giving a concert and those mockers and scoffers are all laughing at the back of the auditorium, and I have to go and stare at them sternly. And it's a remarkable piece of acting because I am pissing myself inside because Meryl was being particularly silly with her singing at that way. She had a kind of dial, a badometer for singing, and she could dial it up from 0 to 10 according to the take and the circumstance. But then when she was off camera, someone else was acting. She liked to dial it up to 20, and that's what she was up to that day. So it was difficult.
I mean, it sounds silly, but it is hard to do something badly when you're good at it. And she's actually an excellent singer. So I don't even know how she did that and did it so, I don't know if I should say good or bad.
Yeah, you have to sort of know where the notes are so that you can come up right flat of it or sharp or just bob and weave around it. But it does, she could sing those arias really well, and they're the hardest pieces of music to sing. So yeah, it's pretty, but then it is, you kind of like learn it. I think we both learned it the best that we could, metronomically, as best technically as we could, and then we just shit all over it, and that was, but it had to be just the right amount of shitting on it, because it's sort of, it is hard to, you don't want to, it's very easy to tell when somebody's faking, if somebody does like a bad pratfall, it's hard, you have to kind of really fall, otherwise you just see the whole setup and it looks fake, so.
Sort of a strange question, but I'm curious, does anyone know why Florence didn't realize how bad she was? I mean, just really, literally nobody in her life told her, or?
Well, there are various theories about this. And what we really went for in the film was that she genuinely can't hear how bad she is and is protected by me and by the sort of Verdi Club lunch ladies from ever knowing. But there are people who say historically it was because of her syphilis, and she had things wrong with her head. So
she bathed in arsenic. So
yes.
So which and mercury. She took mercury, and that's the not funny version of the movie. But
we had that scene in, but we cut it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, and Meryl also talked about like George Gershwin. There's tapes of him actually singing some of his music, and he's wildly off key. So I think, and he wrote it, and he was a genius. But I think that sometimes you can hear it in your head, and you just can't make it come out, and there's some sort of disconnect. But yeah, And then she was
It's not that uncommon. Have you ever put on headphones and sung along to what you're hearing?
And if you peek a little, you take
or
it
if
off.
someone
it's just
records
a
you,
nightmare.
it's hilarious.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
You feel so good, especially if you're running, exercising, and it's just, you feel like you can take over the world.
Oh, that reminds me, we talked about your musical inclinations. I forgot to go back and ask you if you are musically inclined, or do you ever sing? I mean, I've seen you sing, obviously, in music and lyrics, but you said that was heavily doctored.
Yeah, there's a machine now that puts you in tune. Well, there is, and I love it. It makes you sound marvelous. I mean, I'm not horrible as a singer. I can just about get away with it. But I mean, its powers are extraordinary. In music and lyrics, Drew Barrymore, who I adore and is a brilliant actress and a marvelous person in every possible way, is the worst singer next to Florence Foster Jenkins in the world. And she had to record a song in that film. I mean, and there's not a single note that was anywhere near correct. But by the time they've tweaked it, not only does she sound good, she sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is she sounds brilliant because she has good quality of voice, and she meant it, and she kind of loves it, and she's got a raunchy quality to singing voice, whereas I always sounded like Julie Andrews. And for pop music, rock music, that's not what you want to sound like.
You guys are playing real people in this film, who really existed and had lives and families. In a way, did that help you approach the character? Because you probably had things to draw on. I don't know if there was archival footage or anecdotal evidence, but at the same time, does it put an extra responsibility on you, knowing that this is a person who lived and breathed?
Well, I felt a freedom because there's such little information about, shockingly, Cosme McMoon. And they waited till after we shot the movie to release the biography, which had all this wonderful information in it.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think the screenwriter Nick, I think he wrote the biography, and then they released it after we made a movie, and we looked through the entire planet for information. So apparently somewhere existed something, but there was very little. I mean, the script to me was the Bible to it, and I think it was an interpretation of these people. And there was one recording of Cosme when he was in his 70s, and he talked with this sort of, he had like a very like a Latin kind of flair to him. He was born in Mexico, and he lived there for, I think, a year or two, and he sounded he was older, and he was a bit bitter, I think, and I didn't like that quality, and I didn't see that really in the script, so I decided to look deeper into the script as opposed to, and into the music, which was a huge indicator of his relationship with Florence, and how he would adapt to her. When she would drop a measure, he would drop it. If she didn't have the note, he'd give it to her. And then when he had these little musical interludes, he would shine and he'd play perfectly, and then he'd go back into the murky waters with her. So I thought, there's kind of a love affair there between them. And that, and the bodybuilding was accurate. And I thought, well, and there were some insinuations about his sexuality, and I just thought, well, maybe he doesn't know what he is, and maybe that's why he likes to look at these muscle magazines with these men lifting weights. He doesn't quite know it yet, and isn't that a pure moment to find somebody in their life? So I guess I saw a real purity to him, and I imagined like a gecko. He reminded me of a gecko.
Really?
Yeah, just with like big eyes on the side of his head and his neck sort of out there, literally, and that's so I just
now I can't stop looking at that picture of you.
Yeah, see,
you're literally
if you
in
squint,
flowers.
it's like a gecko. Yeah, like a lizard would be, a sweet little baby lizard.
And what about St. Clair? I mean, was there much on him?
Well, there's tons, because he there's an archive at Lincoln Center in New York with his diaries and his letters, and I went and read them, and they were brilliant. I kind of got the character doing that, because above all, I realized that he was, before he met Florence, and again after she died, he was just an unsuccessful actor. And, there he is after her death, writing letters to theatres where he worked 40 years before, saying, I don't know if you remember me, but I was the 4th spear carrier in Coriolanus, and I am looking for work. And the discrepancy, the disparity between that person and the smooth, master of ceremonies, debonair, apparently wealthy, of his Florence years, struck me as both comic and tragic at the same time. But I think in reality, he was a very nice man. And I think we might have tweaked up just a sort of slight shadows a bit more in the film.
That's actually something I love about this movie, is that everyone is like a good person. And I remember when I originally saw the advertising, I was like, oh, are we going to be making fun of this woman? And yes, it's funny, but I think it's great how everyone indulges her because she's actually so sweet.
Yeah, I always like, and I thought that Stephen Frears is particularly well suited to material like this, because I think he has in other films liked to disorientate audiences in terms of what am I watching? Is this a comedy? Is this a tragedy? Am I laughing with? Am I laughing at? He's slightly subversive that way, and I think that some of that happens in this film. But ultimately, hopefully, you get to a place where it is a great celebration of love in its most eccentric manifestation.
I guess the most evil character in it is the critic.
Someone doesn't like critics. I don't know. Yeah.
And St. Clair actually did live a long time after Florence passed, didn't he?
He did. He married Kathleen after Florence died, and lived very happily with her. And we used to mention that in the end credits there, in the crawl.
And everybody did what you just did. Aww.
Yeah, some people felt that diminished the romance of the death. I don't really agree with that, because I think the film, as I say, celebrates love in its very strange contortions, and that you can actually love two people in different ways simultaneously.
Yeah, just like I think you can laugh, you could have seen her at Carnegie Hall and you could have been laughing, and you could have also enjoyed it genuinely. I think it's sort of...
Which they did, those audiences, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, maybe they were laughing near her, not at her. I think it's possible to enjoy something on different levels, specifically a different level than maybe the artist intended it to be enjoyed on. And I think, this movie celebrates that, and Stephen, he really is incredible at that duality and sort of slapping you in the face when you're laughing with something kind of, gut-wrenching or dark or moving.
We have a question from, I think it's Sahar. Did I pronounce it correct? Oh, okay, good. I've seen the film 3 times, and I would see it again 30 times to see you dance. Please tell us about that experience, and if you were to shoot it again, would you do anything differently?
You're so nice. I, of course, dreaded it. There was only 2 things I put a question mark next to in the margin of the script when I first read it. One was Bayfield dances and he's brilliant, and I thought, okay, can't do that. And then right at the end, when she dies, it says Bayfield sobs uncontrollably, and I thought, not sure if I can do that. Although I ultimately did, but they cut it out, bastards. But I spent a year and a half dreading that moment, and I did it, and everyone said, oh, that's wonderful, and then... But the dancing, the funny thing about dancing is, yes, I've done it several times in films now, and oddly enough, I did it again 2 days ago. Really? Yes, I'm in Paddington 2, and I'm the baddie, and I end up in prison, and I'm
Is there a prison dance number?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's a very difficult role for me. I'm a toxic, embittered old actor, and. Why is that funny? And I end up in prison, and I get the whole prison doing a song and dance number.
No way.
Yes, with me. I'll show you a picture after this, actually. It's pretty cool, and it's the real thing. It's musical jazz hands.
Wow. And do you sing too? Or?
And I sing, yeah.
Oh, wow, you're really...
Auto-tuned, but...
So I'm curious, because it sounds like in both of your cases, there wasn't actually a formal audition for this. Stephen just ultimately offered you the part?
Yeah. After that strange meeting. He wanted to... I sent in a tape of me playing some classical music, because I ultimately lied to him and told him I could play anything he put in front of me because he seemed obsessed. It meant a lot to him, apparently, that this actor play the piano, which I did, but not this kind of music. But he kept asking, so I said, fuck, yes, okay, yes, I play everything. And then a couple weeks later, he wanted to see that. So I crammed for a few days and learned the first few pages of Queen of the Night. And I videoed on an iPhone me doing that and sent it to him. But yeah, that was it. So it wasn't really until that we sat down to do the table read, which on the way up he said,
Well, let's hope you can act.
and I said, and so that was the most terrifying moment of my life. That whole table read. We also played all the music in a row. So we played 10 songs or 8 songs or whatever it is, and we read the script in this giant room with all of these brilliant award-winning people. And it was the first time anyone ever heard us do any of it, any of these characters or any speaking. And it was just, me, Meryl, and Hugh at the head of the table. It was, that was scary. And I remember after I went up to Hugh and I said, I was like, oh my God, I think I left my body. And Hugh said, well, that was most disagreeable. And I said, most disagreeable. That is the best way to describe a table read. That was intense, wasn't it? Don't you remember that? We all were
dreadful.
It was so
dreadful.
Scary.
I sat in a car outside for half an hour beforehand, taking rescue remedy. I don't think you have it here.
Oh, yeah.
We have.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You're supposed to take 2 drops on your tongue, and I was on my 4th bottle by the time we started.
But everyone was. I remember I went to Meryl's apartment to rehearse some of the music and the stage direction before the table read. These guys reading the stage direction. She's a perfectionist, and so one of the actors who had one line in the movie got an email that said Meryl wants you to come over to her apartment before the table read. I'm sure, and I saw him show up, and he was like, and she wanted to have him read because of the music.
Yeah.
It was she said, so when you read this line, then stop there, and then we're gonna start playing the music, and then you can read over this part. So she was when I showed up to her apartment, she was like, oh my God, I haven't slept all night. And I was like, really? And she was like, oh, it's just always such a thing, isn't it? And I don't know, there was something, and I saw Hugh snorting Rescue Remedy, and I thought, this is home. I was in the bathroom putting essential oils on my leg. Yeah, it's terrifying.
Well, I was actually curious about that because it must be nice to be offered a role, but then there is the pressure of showing up.
Let's
and
see if you can act.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, I wish I auditioned.
I'm guessing it's probably been a while since your last audition.
Longer for you. Yeah.
Well, yes, it has been. 4 Weddings was my last audition. Funnily enough, I remember walking into that audition, walking up the stairs in Carnaby Street, saying to myself, oh, fucking had enough of auditions. This is my last audition I'm ever going.
And you were right.
I was right. Well, I don't know. I may audition for my next film. I don't know.
But you must be good at it. Have you had any bad audition experiences?
Oh, yeah, shockers. Yeah. Yeah. 4 Weddings was pretty bad. It was a very difficult circumstance. It was in the Jim Henson Centre in London, and I was on a little stage auditioning amongst about 20 Muppets. And I felt that this was undignified in some way. And also, Richard Curtis, who'd written that film, I've never seen a man look more unhappy during an audition. And indeed he was. He told me afterwards he really hated me and didn't want me.
Hated you? Is that what he said?
Pretty much, yeah. But
I hate you.
Yeah, he changed his mind.
Wait, I'm confused. There were Muppets just on the stage?
Yeah, they were all kept there. I don't know why.
It's
but
terrifying. Me and a
actually
bunch
creepy.
of lifeless puppets.
Yeah, me and Kermit and Miss Piggy were all...
It's a nightmare.
What about for you?
Oh, yeah. I always played, I'd always see the breakdowns, and there usually was something about like, you know, gangly, unattractive, whatever, you know, you see all the like things and you go in and there's like a one-eyed, you know, little person sitting there, and then I'm there like to read the same part. I'm like, this is how people, and then you get past that, but but you know, commercial auditions were generally humiliating. I do remember a lot of like just being kind of yelled at, or like they cover you, like if you had to be. I just remember they always like threw a bucket of water on my. I always played someone who had like a head dunked in a toy, something awful, very degrading. And then sometimes they'd put up a partition, so you'd be, and the whole like, you know, all the ad people would sit on the other side, and they'd be talking about you as though you couldn't hear them because there was a partition up, and it was just a very I always played somebody who got like lots of just dehumanized. So those are fun to audition for and get all ready to get dehumanized. I'm sure you relate to that.
Yeah. I had a very bad one where I was a completely unknown actor, and very kindly an American TV director offered me a job here in LA. I'd never even been to LA before. I came out and I was very nervous, and he said, well, why don't we just, you and I, do a little bit of reading of the script, you know. And I was very nervous for that, and I went in and was sitting in a small office somewhere in Culver City, and I started reading, and I thought, it's not going too badly. In fact, I'm rather good. And suddenly the director started to go, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And at that point, he got up. He was a sort of venerable gentleman in his 60s. Got up and vomited more copiously than I've ever seen any human being. It was like a cat. It was horrifying. And I thought, I can't be that bad. And it was Mexican food he'd had the night before. Anyway, I was cradling him on the ground, and he filled about 2 waste paper baskets with vomit. It was terrible.
Did you get it?
Well, I had it anyway. But,
okay.
It was very startling.
Yeah. Well, so yeah.
So you did get the part?
No, I had the part. This was just my first reading.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I'm sort of curious if, you know, with the release of this movie, what do you think it will do for Florence's legacy? I mean, I think that we all sort of knew her as, oh, she was this terrible singer, but now it's really sort of been given a face and a humanity.
Well, I think that's nice for her, and yes, I think it's a nice legacy because we've given her warmth and love and you know, complexity in these things, which she may well have had, but it's just possible that she didn't. There are a few cynics who look at her history and say, in fact, she was a monster of ego and narcissism who was very selfish with her money and selfish with her love, and it was all about her. I don't believe it, but there are those people, aren't there, Simon? No.
Sure, yes. What are you talking to me? Do you think I'm one of them?
No, I don't know. No,
no, yeah, I think...
And weirdly, when we made this film, there were photographs and documentary stuff about her. There was no footage at all ever of her. And some has just been discovered 2 weeks ago.
I just saw it. Yeah, there's actual video of her. She seems lovely. I mean, she really does look a lot like Margaret Dumont, who that's one of the, you know, there was the movie Marguerite, and apparently they named it that because, and Meryl and Stephen also talked about this character being, Margaret Dumont was the Marx Brothers actress, who was heavy and hilarious and kind of a buffoon. Yeah, when in that footage, she doesn't look like a monster, but maybe I'm just optimistic. I don't know. But yes, she's going to go straight to the top of iTunes, I'm sure.
Where did they find this footage after all these years?
I'm not sure. In an attic, in a sort of classic
way. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully, the DVD's probably already been processed, but maybe for a special re-release.
That's true.
I want to thank you guys so much for being here today. Congratulations
Thanks,
on
Jenelle.
a beautiful movie.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.